Self-expression is a celebration. Whether we speak, whether we sing, whether we scribble our ideas on a piece of paper, whether we dance, draw, or doodle, there's a platform out there for us where we can share our ideas far and wide. And the best part is, we don't have to ask anybody for permission. Today, we're pleased to have as our guest, Danny Chauncey. Danny has traveled far and wide, entertaining people as a rock musician. He's been part of Alameda All-Stars, Mistress, Border Patrol, Billy Satellite, and the Southern rock band 38 Special. Danny and I have known each other for many years. We attended Alameda High together back in the 70s. Danny, welcome to the golden age of self-expression.
Man, was it that long ago? 70.
It seems like yesterday.
I don't even think I was born then. Was I?
I feel like I'm 18 years old. I don't know if I move around like I am, but I feel like I'm 18.
Yeah, no, I hear you, buddy.
Yeah. So anyway, I appreciate you being here today. And I also, the first thing I want to ask you is how you're doing. How's your family doing to stay happy and healthy?
We're doing good. We obviously have the same story that most people have with the COVID situation. We spend a lot of time just hanging out, being safe, Mm-hmm. So we're starting to get out a little bit more now, being vaccinated and all that. So, but everybody's happy and everybody's healthy, and things are good here in Georgia. We got plenty of rain out here, so.
That's it. You're getting a lot of rain, and we're kind of wondering when the next rainstorm is going to come.
I know.
It's just been crazy in both places with different types of weather.
I know. I kind of feel guilty. I was talking to a friend the other day, and we were thinking, like, if we can build oil pipelines from Alaska to wherever, why can't we just build a big old water pipeline and just, you can have all our water. Goodness
right. Gracious. It's like that old saying, you can put a man on the moon. We got to be able to figure this out.
Yeah, totally.
Right. So self-expression, that's the theme today. What does self-expression mean to you?
Well, I think it is, for me, self-expression is a musical thing pretty much. Also with social media, I mean, your page on Facebook is a form of self-expression too, the photographs you choose. So yeah, I think it's just, putting yourself out there, communicating what's important to you or what tickles your fancy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you have a personal story that led to your passion for music?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, way back when I was little, my mom, she had and I don't know why she picked up on me and the potential that I would be passionate about music. I don't remember her doing it for the other kids, but she had taken a music appreciation class when she was in college, I think, and she was musically inclined. There was always piano. I guess that generation, there were more common to have pianos in the house, people singing around that instrument for entertainment, whatever. So she had taken this class, and she took it upon herself one time to sit me down with a piece of classical music and explain to me what the composer was doing. Now, I was probably 5 or 6, maybe. And so she explained to me what this particular piece of music, it was the Moldau, and I forget the composer off the top of my head, but it was a story of a river in Europe, and that starts off with a little trickle up in the mountains, and it was a real delicate piece of music. She was explaining that to me, and then it turns into this raging river with very aggressive sounding music, and it just had a huge impression on me. And I remember used to getting dressed to that before school. Like, I knew at a certain point in time in the music, I had to have my socks on. A certain point in time in the music, I had to have my, hair combed. So from then on, I was very passionate about music, and I listened to a lot of classical music. Obviously, until the Beatles came around, and then that's when the real big bell went off in my head.
So the Beatles that was a game changer for you.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. Wow.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love music, but when I heard, I think it was Twist and Shout was probably the first song I heard. And it was so thrilling to me. I was probably 7, and I was just like, I remember, this is another story of minor regret, I guess, but I drove my dad crazy until he would go get me the album, because I had to have this album. So he went to this little record store in Pleasant Hill, California, and we got a copy of the VJ, well, I guess it wasn't import, but the VJ album introducing the Beatles. And the album that we got had Love Me Do on it, which that particular version of that album became a real collector's item, because initially that company VJ didn't have the rights to release that song. They took it off a demo that they'd got, right? So that was one pressing, I believe, of the album. Then the next one didn't have it on there. So I actually stood in front of a rack of those albums in the music store. Had I, if I was clairvoyant or could see the future, I would snagged all of them.
That's unbelievable. When they started the British invasion, I remember when they played at Shea Stadium, I think it was 1965, and my aunt and uncle were the only ones that had the color TV in the family. So I convinced somebody to take me over to their house so I could watch that concert on color TV. But it was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. So then that sort of gave me the inspiration to, after begging for the album, I begged for a guitar. And I got that, and so that's what sort of started my my path of being a musician.
Good. So your mom planted the seed.
Who
were some of your teachers, heroes, or other role models?
I had a great music teacher in grammar school. She's still alive, at Beverly Broughton. I've actually friends with her on Facebook, and she was passionate about what she did. She taught regular classes, but she also handled the music program at the elementary school. And she would have us sing, there was choir, and we did musicals of the day, like Oliver and the Music Man and stuff like that. She also formed a little quartet. I've got a picture of it somewhere. I don't think it's on the wall, but myself and 3 other friends, we actually lived in Fresno at the time, and so we would go around to competitions, and she'd play piano and remind us to smile. All that. I can remember it all, but it was wonderful. Really, she was like the first person who put confidence in me. Was really, outside of my mom, of course, but then after that, Miss Broughton, she was real important. And then I moved up to the Bay Area and was fortunate enough to go to Alameda High School, because if you were into music and you were into being a player and you were fortunate enough to go to Alameda High, I mean, you were surrounded by good musicians. Pat Thrall was a few years older than me, but he was still one of the best guitar players I've seen, from the standpoint of just passionate playing, emotional playing. And he played at Alameda High School dances and at, the Veterans Hall and, little places around with the band Cook and Mama, which was Alameda band. And Pat was such an inspiration. And I was lucky enough to get to know him. And he was kind enough to show me some stuff. I mean, he didn't teach me like, well, play these notes in this order. He showed me like technique, like this is how you do a vibrato that sounds good. And I wanted to, because he could make one note sound amazing. And that's really what I wanted, was just to be able to make the guitar speak to somebody else the way he made it speak to me. And so he showed me how to do a vibrato and a couple other things. And I just sort of went from there. You know, Brad Gillis obviously was, he was 1 year behind me. I reminded him of that all the time. 1 year behind me in high school, and was an amazing player way back then. So, yeah, it was just great. Tom Folletti, I met him when I was a senior, and I remember we were in the music room. We both had, I think this is how it went. Maybe when I was a junior, actually. It might have been before that, but I'm pretty sure. I'll go with that for now, junior.
Okay.
But I'd wandered into the music room, and there was a piano in there, and there was a set of drums in there. And I think Tom was in there on his drums. He probably remembers the story. I think I'm making half of it up. But anyway, it ended up where I was on the piano and he was on the drums, and we just played some kind of simple little thing. And he was very, you know, very steady. And I'd never played with anyone who actually made a groove before. Mm-hmm. So man, that was great. He and I started playing all the time. Just he and I. In fact, we did a gig one time. I think it was just him on drums and me on guitar, and we only knew like two things that we'd play endlessly, you know. So we went to I think his brother-in-law. We loaded all the equipment that we had, which was not much of anything, into the back of the car, and went played this party and played those two things like all night for free beer or something. So yeah, it was a very healthy scene when I was in high school.
Excellent. Who were some of the other people you collaborated with over the years as a musician?
Oh, well, I think, when I got into Billy Satellite, that was, Mistress was very cool. That was a great band. And, you know, meeting Tommy Johnston and get playing Border Patrol, that was also very cool. But the Billy Satellite experience was really formative for me because Monty Byram and Ira Walker, the two of them were both really good songwriters. You know, they really understood songcraft and form, and they were prolific. They were writing all the time. You know, they were a really good three-piece before I joined the band. So when I left Mistress, I was kind of excited, you know, to be able to get into Billy Satellite because they sounded like I wanted to sound, you know, the band did. And it was super creative, like the songwriting. I jumped right in with songwriting with them. We wrote tons of stuff and made demos of tons of stuff. I think Monty probably has a copy of every single thing. He was the archiver in a lot of ways of the band. But yeah, that was really cool. And so I learned a lot at that experience. Of course, Monty and Ira wrote "I Want to Go Back Together," and that obviously was a big for all of us because it opened up other doors for songwriting opportunities and for band opportunities. And when I got into 38 Special, which was one of those opportunities, obviously those guys also knew how to write music, and but the guy who was really, I think, was the real catalyst there was Jim Peterick, who wrote "Eye of the Tiger" and was the founder of that band Vehicle. I mean, the Ides of March, which had the song Vehicle, which was a big hit. Jim wrote that. And he also collaborated with the guys at 38 on Hold On Loosely, Caught Up in You, Fantasy Girl. So that was really cool to be able to start writing with him. I mean, he was my first real exposure to a real professional songwriter. I mean, he everywhere you went, you got to dinner with him, he had this satchel with him. And you'd be talking at dinner, just, you know, shooting the breeze. And he'd reach down in his satchel, get a notebook out, flip a page, write a couple things down, close it, put it back in there. And that notebook was full of song ideas, full of little bits of lyrics and stuff like that. He wrote nonstop. I mean, it was just, he was passionate about it. He loved it. Super creative, could write very quickly. Always had an idea, always. So that was really cool to have that experience with him. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. What does it do for you when you're on stage and you see joy and excitement in your audience?
Well, there's no feeling like that. It really is, you know, like when you're on the road, playing live is your job. You have to do it. You can't just go, I'm not feeling it today. I'm not feeling so joyful, you know, or I'm not feeling like, you know, being in front of people. Obviously it's what you do. So you go out there and you fake it to make it sometimes. Like if something bad's happening in your existence, you know, you can't just go, at least with 38 Special, we couldn't go out there and just, you know, we had a song list that we were going to play every night, and people were coming with an expectation of having fun and joyful, and have to be a very uplifting time. And the feedback you get from that, even if you started off a show not feeling your best or whatever, the feedback from the audience, just seeing people, you know, just happy, and it's inspiring. It inspires you to do more, to make a better show, to really get into the music. I mean, I don't remember like one time in 38 or in any other band, well, but for sure in 38, because I just played more with that band than any other, but where we didn't like playing like Hold On Loosely or another big song in particular, where it felt like, oh gosh, played this 1,000 times. You know, it always felt fresh to us. And I think it's because we didn't let it become not fresh. You know, it was important to us to, you know, be in the moment, treat it with respect, treat the audience with respect, and, you know, do the best job that we could. And like, I've heard preachers go, well, I've just preached myself happy, you know, and I think that with music, there's a correlation there too, where you can, like, no matter what's going on in your life, especially if you're a musician, and I think just for people who love music and listen too, where you can just get into that moment and it's transformative. It'll take you from where you are at the moment to, you know, hopefully a brighter spot. And I've seen that happen tons.
Great. Wonderful. It's a great place to be. It's a great place to be. Now, during the pandemic, we've all had to adjust our activities. I've seen some of your videos. You've done presentations on Facebook of your music. How has that been for you? Have you enjoyed doing that?
I really enjoyed doing that, and I didn't think I was actually talked into it. My wife and we've got this awesome friend who does the social media part of the music page and stuff, my music page, and I think Lori actually. My wife is Kelly. Lori is the other friend, and I think Lori had seen another artist do like a live thing from their living room or something, and thought it was great, and really was encouraging me to do it. And I just didn't, you know, it just seemed. I mean, it's a big difference doing like I do it from this room and doing it here in this almost soundproof room as opposed to being on a stage, right? I mean, it's a huge difference. This is very intimate, and it was kind of scary, but I went ahead and did it and put together some music, and it turned out to be great. I mean, it was like the funny thing was I got all the nerves and the butterflies because it was live that I would get like before a show. and I would prepare like I would prepare for a show. So it was actually really healing for me to do that, because I had spent so many of my weekends, in that mode, getting ready, putting on your stage gear, whatever like that, get psyched up to go and do it. And I had that same feeling. Another thing that was a real blessing, because 99.9% of the music I was doing was all instrumental. And what I would do, I'd take like songs that actually had vocals to them, and I would just like with the computer there, just take the vocal out and just do the music, and then try and improvise a new melody, or just trying to, basically entertain myself. When I was doing it the best, I think I was just doing it for myself. I was really just trying to entertain myself, play something that mattered to me, that felt fresh. But I really got a good sense of what my guitar strengths were. You would think that by now that I would really have a good handle on that. But I think that for me, because I'd play them back, I'd play these live things, and I could really, there's times when I knew what I was going to play, like 2 bars later. Like I hit a phrase here and I go, I know what I'm going to get ready to do. And about 2 bars, and sure enough, I would. So I got a good sense of where my strengths were as a player, and really over time during that, I think I did a good job of embracing those and extending those. Like I think with some guitarists, like there was always a lot of pressure in Alameda to be fast, because there were so many great fast guitar players who could really just tear it. Brad, for one. Pat Thrall was another guy who could just fly. Glenn Salandong, who was Brad's age, who was a monster player. I'm forgetting tons of them. I mean, there was and you'd hear people comparing, the guys, Danny better than Brad, or is Pat better than Danny, Brad? Well, it's all that kind of stuff. And I think there was even though I had my strengths as a guitar player, I felt little on the inadequate side, because I really didn't practice a lot to be, a burner, I guess, like some guitar players. And when you've got a friend like Brad, it also felt a little hopeless to be even go down that road with guitar, because you're not going to get better than Brad. It can't happen. I've seen so many videos since those days of Brad, like doing Night Ranger stuff, or there's just one video, I know I'm kind of veering off, so if I need help getting back on track, just let me know. But there was this video that I saw where it was a bunch of heavy metal rock guitar players getting into a studio and playing along this track. It was a charity thing, right? And they had all these Lita Fords, and and Brad was among the guitar players. And I watched the video and watched all these guitar players play. And then Brad came up and it was his turn. And he just was so far and away above everybody else who just played. Creatively, passion, in his playing. I think Brad got a lot of the same stuff that I got, and Pat Thrall, because we were all playing, Brad and I played next to each other on stage for years. Right. And I think he got some of what I did. By the way, he's played the best Red House blues that I've ever heard in my life. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, see, I totally forgot where I was. Got to get off on other stuff. But anyway, I did connect with where my strengths were on guitar, and accepted that. I do this thing right here really good. This is where I'm most proud of my playing, is in this particular niche, and got cool with that. I don't need to be anybody else. I'm okay being, the guy who played the solo stuff on Second Chance. That's really, that song is a real good example of my guitar strengths. Is just very simple, melodic stuff that sounds like somebody singing a little bit. Has some emotion to it.
I'm struck with the fact that you just said I don't need to be anybody else.
Yeah.
And that's, I talked with someone a few weeks ago, and they were talking about great speakers and great motivators, and said, you know, we already have a Tony Robbins. We don't need another one. We already have this great speaker. We don't need another one. But what we need is we need a Danny Chauncey. We need a Brad Gillis. And when all of you are doing what you do great, that's what makes everything happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a real unfortunate trap to get into, to see your art for what it's not, rather than embracing it for what it is, because it's, you know, it's in the mistakes, it's in the imperfections, where, when you asked earlier about self-expression, that's the thing right there. It's the imperfections. It's the things that are not, I mean, you can reduce music, for one, to a mathematical equation. I mean, you can write it all out, say this note goes here, this note goes here, this note goes here, and this is, you know, the tempo and all that. But it's the idiosyncrasies, the little bits of your personality coming through, which happen naturally. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like a vocalist. It's going to sing, but they're not. You can spend your time learning to sing like whoever, right? But it's in the imperfections in your own voice, the little bits of character. You don't want to wash that stuff away. Right. You know, I don't want to be another guitar player. Brad is who he is. You know, there's only one guy that sounds like that. You would know him playing first time you heard it. And he's the best at being Brad of anybody, right? And I'm the best at being Danny of anybody. Pat Thrall is the best at being Pat Thrall. And I think that, yeah, it's just for anybody doing art, I think, like it's in self-expression, there needs to be a self to express. Mm-hmm. You know? I mean, I'm not saying don't get inspiration from other players. And we all, you know, I stole from Brad, I stole from Pat, from everybody, but it's what we do with that stuff and put it together to express ourselves, and that's where the originality comes from, I think.
Right. That's a good segue to my next question. Perfect. What would you tell someone who confided in you or came and sought your opinion? They've got a unique talent, they're self-conscious, and they're afraid to express themselves.
It's what I mean, I can relate to the fear, for one. I can. I'm one who will gravitate towards the safe side of the street way too often. Mm-hmm. But in that, you know, the sort of reducing of risk, you're just limiting your life, you know, and the worst thing you want to do, which I've actually done, I've looked back and gone, man, if I had just was brave here, if I had just been brave there, if I just done that without editing myself into oblivion, you know, whether it would have changed the outcome of my life. I mean, I'm grateful for where I sit, so I'm not complaining about anything. What I'm just saying is that, what's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is to not try something. You know, it's super painful to sing in front. I mean, I've went and took voice lessons one time, and I went in and the teacher said, "We'll sing." You know, you're standing there all by yourself, no instrument, and I didn't even know. I couldn't even think of a song to sing. I just sang a real insecure version of something I'd written, I think, and it was super painful. You know, super like exposed, like it's just So I mean, I get the pain of that, but I ended up walking away from that. Going, I don't, you know, that's not something it was just too embarrassing, or it was too painful or something. And to this day, you know, I wish I would have sung more. I wish I would have learned the craft of singing more, because I love to sing, but I let things get in the way of that. So I guess I would say, don't do what I did. I would say, push through and follow your passion. No harm is going to come to you. You know, the embarrassment is like, so what?
Follow your passion.
Yeah.
You and I have another thing in common besides high school. We both have volunteered in prisons.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Could you tell me about your experience at Phillips State Prison?
Yeah. It's well, right now it's a little bittersweet because of the pandemic. We haven't been able to get in there to see the guys, and so that's been a little tough to deal with. But it actually started for me. My wife was in a small group at church, and they were going to, I actually forget what the occasion was. Oh, I know it was. They were asking for donations of musical equipment because they needed some stuff. And I had some stuff laying around. So I donated a couple of amp pads, and my wife was really like, come on, will you please go with me to this thing, please? And it was the last thing in the world I wanted to do, was to go into a prison. I'd never been in one before. It felt really uncomfortable to me. I didn't want to be, you know, it was a very self-centered response to that. Like, I didn't want to present the, you know, I didn't want. Anyway, I did anyway, pushed through. And when I was there, I got in there and met some of the people. There was a prison band. Obviously, you're donating musical equipment, and the stuff they were playing on was really beat up, inadequate. It was sad to me. It was like, oh God, this is, and they were playing, you know, worship music. They were doing their best to do what they could do, and they were good players and good singers. And so I just went over and talked to the warden. I said, I think this is something where I can help out. And he said, well, you can come in one night a week and you know, work with the band. I said, perfect. So I did that, started working with the guys, and then I started getting donations of musical gear. The church got a lot of stuff, which was really cool. And you know, we spent a little bit of money and just got things fixed up. And man, it just changed the atmosphere. Just having someone, you know, I mean, you've had the experience where just having somebody show up, like, you're not forgotten. You do matter to some people out here, you know. And so that was awesome. And then the warden asked if I wanted to do my own night in there. And I could do anything I wanted to do. And at the time, and I still think it's a good, we did like, you know, doing a church service, like a video church service, and we brought in a band and stuff like that. But I think now, and that's going to continue on, I think that it would also be cool just to have a regular music night in there, like go in and, you know, teach music, or just have a jam night or something like that, something, because they get religious services it's almost every night in there. So there's no shortage of spiritual training. But I think that maybe next time when I go in, I'll do something like that. But it's been life-changing for me, you know, because when people talk about serving other people, you know, that's like, if you got, it will cure almost any emotional problem you have that you're going through. It will fix that. It's forgetting about you for a second and going and serve somebody else. Mm-hmm. You know, and my life is completely dotted with self-centeredness. I mean, it's like, it's the wallpaper in, you know, my life in a lot of ways. And and having that with the guys, the inmates, just having the relationship with them and really being able to do things for them, even when it's, there's times I'd rather be watching the game on TV. It changes you,
I had a similar experience. There were 9 of us in Toastmasters that taught communication and leadership skills at San Quentin. And it's just life-changing. It's just, some of these participants were lifers.
Yeah.
They wanted to improve their communication and leadership skills so they could have a better experience for the rest of their life while they're in prison. I mean, it was it was incredibly humbling. It was just unbelievable. So it's an amazing experience. And there's a lifers group that, it's really cool because the church really got behind it, and it's a pretty big church out here. And so there's the lifers group is a group of guys. Obviously, they're I think most of them have life sentences. You would think they all would, but I'm not sure. But it's maybe 100 guys, and they support each other. They have a code of honor. They do stuff like leadership training. They participate in all kinds of stuff to better the environment in there. So that we honor them once a year with a Christmas party. And I get up and I play with the band, and some of the women from the church come in and they organize games and stuff like that. It's so much fun. And then we bring in all this food that they wouldn't normally get, because they eat in the cafeteria, and we spend a ton, and it's the best time ever. And that's one of the things that's been really hard, because those guys look forward to it, because they get these big, bags of gifts too, like new shirts and socks and underwear and just stuff that is really hard to come by, that matters to them and for their experience. So needless to say, I'm looking forward to get back in there, but I don't know when that's going to I am too. Right now, there's still things going on with COVID, but it's very rewarding. It's very rewarding. So, Danny, I appreciate you being on the show. It's been a lot of fun. And what's next for you? What would you like to promote? And who would you like to give a shout out to?
I'm in a place where I'm not promoting anything. I am happy sort of in just doing some lessons. I'm teaching people to play. And that's really cool. And as far as doing a shout out, I think our buddy Ray Bertolina would be someone I could I do right now, because I know you're getting ready to see him coming up, and I just got to spend some time with him up at the Sierras last month, so it was a good time for me. It keeps me, in contact with my Alameda roots.
All right. Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of us are getting together October 1st and October 2nd. Everything's going to be outside, but we're going to get together and celebrate a class reunion. So that's going to be a good time.
That'll be the best.
Yeah. So, well, great. Well, I appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks, Steve.
And I appreciate everybody who took time to watch and listen.
All right.
Danny and I have had a good time chatting, and we're going to be back next week. There's going to be another show next week of the golden age of self-expression. If you'd like to know more about what we please go to our website at productivediscourse.home.blog. It gives great information about all of our activities, and then it also shows you how you can contact me if you'd like me to speak at your service club, religious organization, community group, or your Toastmasters club. So come back next week where we'll have another guest. And in the meantime, please like, share, comment, and subscribe so this message will go far and wide, and we'll find that shining needle of common ground in that haystack of fear.